Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to another episode of Water Rising. Today, I wanted to talk about this idea, right? When we are looking for our purpose, when we are wanting to move along a path, and we're moving from an old way of being into a new way of being. Say we're leaving a job or we're leaving a relationship, where we're transitioning, right? We're in these thresholds of transition, let's say. And we are looking for guidance. We're looking for information on how do we traverse this threshold and how are we taking this big step into this next part of our life. And we can have amalgamated a number of different modalities and ways of doing things. And yet it's almost as if we are wanting to have this really big revelation of, what am I doing, right? Where's this all going? How is all this coming together? And the way that I experience it in my own journey, when I think back, a decade ago when I was traversing that threshold, and then what I see in my clients is this need or this desire to have one big step shown to us, right? Because then we can be certain, we can have clarity, we can feel safe and secure because we have this giant step and everything's laid out for us and we know what that's going to look like. However, that's not how it works. At least not in my experience, right? And I know a lot of you can relate to that, where the big step that we're looking for is actually a series of small, little incremental steps that we have slowly been taking all the way along. I think one of the things that we do, right, is we arrive at a place and we're continuing to look forward and we're measuring how far we still have to go, or are perceived how far we have to go, right? And through this, we forget and negate everything that's come before us, the path that we have already walked, the work that we have already done, the studying we've already done, the self-exploration that we have already done. All of these things, we just kind of, they fade into the background and we just focus on where we're going. And what I see in this, right, is that there's this place in us that when we can pause and when we really reflect back on how far you've come, it is really astounding and incredible. All the choices you have made, all the steps you have taken, all the things you've learned, all the things that have come together, right? The flow of life has come together in this incredibly unique way that is just yours. No one else has this flow of life happening, right? They've got their own unique. Yours is yours, and it's not for anyone else. And every moment of that flow has helped you to arrive in this moment that is still within the flow of life. And that is continuing to flow out in front of you. And so there can be a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like satisfaction. Safety is not the right word, but it's like this feeling of being held. That's what I'm looking for, right? Like if you really can look back and look at all the things that have happened to you, you can connect in with the way that you were held. Even though some of those things were incredibly hard, incredibly challenging, from the place you are right now, you can see, if you're truthful and honest with yourself, that there was a holding. There was something that you learned. There was a way that you moved through that made you greater today, that made you more resilient, that made you more who you are, that made you more authentic. And so in harnessing that, right, as we are on these thresholds of wanting to know what's the big step that's going to get me where I want to go, it's really recognizing that, in fact, it's a series of smaller, incremental movements and decisions and actions, right? All of those are important. We have an incredible part to play in the flow of life. I do not believe in the teaching that we just that surrender means you're giving up, or you're just saying, I don't care, God's going to direct me, or the universe is going to direct me. In my experience, in my very well-lived experience, it's a co-creation. And I surrender to the outcome, but I do not surrender to the moment and to the request and to what is required of me on this journey in order for life to flow through me in the way that it is intended, right? I am an integral part of that flow of life and of what is being created through me, with me, and for me. So as you lean into this idea of these smaller incremental steps, I think there's a lot of faith that comes in, right? A lot of our need to allow and let something greater than us be felt, be experienced, be explored as we continue to show up for what it is that we love and that we feel is purposeful. And then we let the flow of life, we let the universe work out the details as that is moving along. And yes, big steps do happen. I am not negating that. I very much believe in quantum leaps. I very much believe in synchronicity. All of those things are a part of this flow of life. Yet I have also experienced that it's my willingness to turn towards this moment rather than focus on the moment ahead of me that allows something bigger to happen, and it allows a synchronicity to show up and be seen and be incorporated into what I am doing, right? That the result that I didn't even know was possible and didn't even realize that was a better result than the one that I was manifesting or the one that I was holding in my prayer. This is possible inside of surrender, inside of incremental steps. And I get that there's a lot of teachings out there that maybe say incremental steps, like they want to teach you that there is always the bigger step. I believe inside those teachings, there's still incremental steps, right? There's still the thing that you need to do. There's still the simple decision that you need to make today in order to facilitate that bigger opportunity even being available. And it's pretty profound. What's dropping in was I was working with a client, and what came through was that by them, it was their soul had sort of reached a point where it had decided that they had closed a chapter on a certain phase of their life. And there was something that they weren't willing to look at, right? Because maybe they're looking at this bigger step. And because of this bigger step, they're missing these smaller incremental steps that were being offered and being asked of them, right? It kept coming up over and over again that they needed to look at this one part of their life. And it was a very painful part of their life, and they've hidden it very well for many, many, many years. And the thought of going back in there, right, and moving that energy and reworking those beliefs, of reworking that energy and rewriting those beliefs felt very daunting. And so what I could see was that their soul had sort of closed a chapter on that and said, all right, we'll do that in another lifetime. And so now you're on this particular timeline that doesn't include your soul expanding in that way. And in it closed down a number of other opportunities that were available for her soul. And so what came through was she had actually made what came through is that she had actually made a decision recently, right? She had decided that it was worth going into this really incredible, painful part of her life and her memories in devotion to understanding the path forward, in devotion to something bigger. And when she had decided this, and when she started actually taking action on this, her soul started a whole new chapter. It was as if I could see the closing of something, but then the reopening. Like she added years to her life because of this decision to look at something really hard. Because it was like her soul had said, all right, if you don't want to look at it, now we know we're going to have to look at it in another life. So let's just kind of go on autopilot for the rest of this life because you don't want to go there. So we'll just kind of play this out as necessary, right? You're just going to half live the rest of your life, let's say. But because she chose, her soul got excited, and it added on years to her life as the way that it appeared when we were looking at the energy of it, because there was an excitement in her soul that she had reactivated by being willing to take incremental steps into something that felt really, really challenging. So I guess I bring this in, right? Because we're talking about purpose. We're talking about wanting this big thing to happen. And what I see in her example is she really wanted a big leap. She wanted to say, I'm not really comfortable where I am. I really want to be over here. And I need direction on how to make that big step happen. But what her soul showed her was that it's actually in these small incremental steps in an opposite direction, right? She's going back into the past. She's not focused on the future. But by taking these small incremental steps into the past, into the pain, into the energetic disruptions that were part of this past experience, the big step is possible, right? Like that, her soul just took a giant step into the future. It created a whole new chapter of her life for her because she was willing to take the small steps into something that she had been avoiding. So these are the incredible things that happen when we're willing to be present to the moment, when we're willing to be present to the pain, to the past, to the journey into ourselves, right? Into those darkest, deepest places that we have hidden for so long that we tell ourselves aren't affecting us anymore, yet they are always circling in no time, no space, right? We exist in time and space, but the things that happen to us, they circle and perpetuate in no time, no space. And they are always informing our energetic system. They're always informing our nervous system. They're always informing our thoughts, our feelings. All the things get affected by what we're not looking at. So taking the time to take these small steps, right, in devotion to your own authenticity and truth, and unearthing all the things inside you that are creating the incoherence inside you and in your field, these are the things that will help you wake up one day and realize, like, oh, I took the big step, but I just took it in a whole lot of little steps. So it's all part of the process. I think I share all this because I want you to ease up on yourself for needing to know. Ease up on yourself in this space of like having to know what the purpose, what the big picture of it all looks like, right? The purpose is unfolded when you take the time to lovingly investigate your truth and who you are and all the things that are running in the background of your life. And the more that you comb through them lovingly, the more that you allow them to have a voice and to come into this version of you. This version of you changes, right? And then the purpose becomes clearer because it is based on your actual truth and authenticity. It's not based on any wounding. It's not based on any parts of you that are trying frantically to keep you safe. And those parts aren't going to let you have a big step because they are really committed to staying where they are, because unknown territory to them feels really threatening. But the more that you include them, then that traverse, right, the thresholds that we're moving across become more friendly. They become more possible. They become more part of your architecture and infrastructure. And the way through is so much more easeful. So links in the show notes to additional water rising content over on Substack. We have School for the Soul with all our programs. We have the journey. Oh my gosh, I love the journey. Join us in the journey and dive into so many of these topics, right, that we talk about here. But we don't just talk about them, we do something about them. We're clearing the energy. We're working with the thoughts, with the programs. We are doing energy medicine practices, all devoted to your journey and to you walking in these incremental steps as a way to have that big step be easeful. So, love you for tuning in, for being here on this journey with me, and I'll see you soon.